talk about.
It's quite poor. Hello and welcome. My name is Ian. This channel is all about music and art. And in this video I'm going to talk about my love affair with the classic Korg DWGS or Digital Waveform Generator System synthesizers. That being the DW6000 and the DW8000. Both were from the mid 1980s. There will be a part 2 of this where we'll look at the factory presets on the fantastic Korg DW8000. Now this range of DWGS synths came out in 1985, and at the time I was working as a professional musician touring the UK, playing nightclubs, social clubs and here up north the working men's clubs with a band called Powergram. The band had been together since 1984 and had a few name changes, and we'd also changed the singers, but the core of the band, the backline musicians, the drums, bass, guitar and keyboards, had stayed together throughout that whole period. By 1986 I was looking for a new synthesizer. I already owned a Korg Poly 6 which has some great string sounds and organ sounds, but was completely rubbish at getting a decent piano sound out of it. Although it did, I have to say, with a bit of work and a bit of programming, it did do a passable electric piano sound. But I was looking for something better, and obviously technology in the mid-80s was moving on. So, after quite a bit of research, I'd hoped that the Korg's DW series might fit the bill. Korg had brought out 2 versions of their digital waveform generator system. First of all, the DW6000, which had a 6-note poly 2 oscillator without aftertouch, and it had 8 waveforms. Where a year later they brought out the DW8000, which was 8-note poly 2 oscillators with aftertouch and a arpeggiator and 16 waveforms. And I really wanted the DW8000, but it was priced around 2000 at the time, and the DW6000 was, I think, about 1600. So I started ringing around all the Korg music dealers in the UK. Remember, this is pre-internet. Asking if they had a second-hand or ex-demonstration Korg DW6000, knowing full well that the DW6000 had only been out for a few months. Anyway, after a week of ringing around, I found an ex-demo DW6000 at a music shop in Bournemouth for £1,200. I said, yes, I'll have it. So my wife and I got in the car, drove down to Bournemouth, bought the DW6000 without even listening to it, and we then went and stayed with my sister-in-law in Southampton for a few days before heading back up north. Now, although the DW6000 was a cut-down version of the 8000, I was mainly interested in the fact that it had 8 waveforms that were sample-based, and particularly the fact that waveform 3 was an acoustic piano sample. Now, this is the 1980s, and sampling by today's standards was really pretty poor. But I wanted to know if it was good enough for me to program an acceptable piano patch. So I did. But let's have a listen. Now actually we're listening to an 8000, not a 6000, because I don't own a 6000 anymore. But let's have a listen to the acoustic sound patch of the DW8000. Now what I've had to do is, because my DW8000 is slightly poorly, and we'll get on to what's wrong with it at the moment, I'm using an external keyboard here to play it. This is just plugged in for MIDI, but it's actually playing the sounds of the DW8000. So let's have a listen to these piano sounds. Now I'll go in a bit more detail about the banks of the DW8000 in the next video, but we have a bank of 64 patches, and they are in banks of 8, and you can lock each of those 8 banks. So they start at 11 through to 88. So if I press 11 and press bank hold, what's happening now, you'll see that I've got keys which sort of work intermittently. and these are the factory presets from the 8000, so they've not been modified in any way. So what Korg did with the factory presets is that preset 11, 21, 31, 41 and I think 51 are all piano based sounds. There are others dotted around, but those are fundamentally the idea being that you could hit, and you can move them around, but that you could hit those and you were always going to get a piano sound. So let's have a listen to, this is program 11. So it doesn't sound very acoustic piano-y by today's standards, but it does sound sort of an electric sort of, it's not quite a Yamaha Yamaha electric grand, but it's got a we've got a sort of sound that's pretty, you know, for 1985, 86, pretty accurate piano sound. Let's have a listen to program 21. That's, I think, using their acoustic piano sample. Now, when I did get my DW6000, I did tweak it slightly to make it sort of slightly brighter and to give it a more acoustic sound. It wouldn't pass muster in a recording session, but it certainly did pass muster in '86 live on stage playing covers, which is what the band was doing. Let's have a quick listen to 31. We're very much in electric piano territory now. Quite nice, quite sweet. Let's have a listen to program 41. It's a slightly brighter variation on the last sample, the last program. So you get the idea. Let's have a quick listen to 51. I can't remember whether 51 really is a piano. It's sort of piano stringy sort of sound. So there you are, you've heard the sounds. So the DW8000 acoustic piano sounds are not realistic by today's standards, but it was great for live work in 1980s, and I did keep the DW6000 until 1994 when I sold it to buy something a bit more modern. But I wasn't finished with Korg's digital waveform generation system, as in 2001 I was at a Sunday car boot sale when I stumbled across this beast, the DW8000, for £25. And it was in a car boot sale, and of course I had no idea if it worked, but I thought for £25 I thought I could always get my money back if it's actually in terrible condition. Having said that, I got it home, plugged it in, DW8000 worked perfectly, and so my love affair with the DW began again, and I've kept it ever since. Now, I've decided now is the time to sell my DW8000, mainly because I want to buy an ASM Hydrosynth to explore MPE with my instrument, and and I don't have room for both. So if you are interested in buying a DW8000, the eBay and Reverb links are in the description down below. It's worth mentioning what the issues I have with this particular 8000. It's never been gigged, it's always been used in the studio, and actually for a few months it was actually sat in its box when the battery failed, which was probably a couple of years ago now. I had the battery replaced and the battery holder replaced, because it was a solder battery, an original one. I had that replaced probably about 6 or 7 months ago, and then I had to reload all of the programs in from cassette. So that's why the factory presets are as they are. They've not been modified in any way. There's two main problems with it. One is that, and I think when the person that replaced the battery and the holder for me must have disconnected the arpeggiator, because the arpeggiator doesn't work anymore. So when you play a note and you switch on the arpeggiator, it literally kills all the sound. I mean, we'd have to strip the whole thing down and get into it to find out whether that's the truth or not, but my understanding is that's what the case is, so it probably just needs reconnecting. Having said that, I don't know. The other issue is that it suffers from something called sticky keys. Now, I've been playing it more the last few days because I've been preparing for this video and listening to the sounds again. What happens is that we've got a key there that actually is intermittent, and the more I press it, the more it sort of comes back, and they're sort of random. There's probably about a dozen keys that we would call sticky. They seem to be working a lot better now because I've been playing it the last 2 or 3 days more. Having looked on forums and things like that, my understanding is that just needs to be the contacts cleaning. The contacts need to be cleaned, but again, don't quote me on that, I don't know for sure. Anyway, we'll explore more in part 2 when we'll go through all of the factory presets, and I'll go through the process of how I was able to re-import the factory presets into the 8000. So thanks so much for watching and liking my videos, and don't forget to subscribe, as all interactions on this channel is much appreciated, and ding that little bell if you want to be notified when I put up the next video. So thanks so much, I'll see you next time. All the best, bye bye. Korg had brought out 2 versions of the digital audio work for fiddlesticks. I'll